Hey everybody, good morning. Welcome to the Morning Devo with Bo. Super cool to have you in the house of Devo and excited. We are already got a good crew in our Facebook platform and excited about that always. And we are streaming live on my YouTube channel. You could always go there for the archives at Bo Willette. And it's an interesting French Canadian name, I know, with a lot of vowels in there, but there it is, Bo Willette at the YouTube channel. You could check out all the archives. Gosh, we've gone through so many books, as you guys know, but so good to see you guys this morning. We're in Genesis chapter 17, and if you've never been into a devotion before, it's basically we go through the scriptures in a more applicable way, kind of pulling out some of the gems. I'm going through these devotions actually chapter by chapter throughout the Bible, so I'm just going right down the line. Nothing too fancy or anything like that. But hopefully, it's an opportunity for people that have never read the Bible to be able to kind of get into it and maybe get some things out of it that they go, whoa, I kind of didn't even know that. And I think, as all of us have seen over the years of going over these devos, is that there's so much things that are applicable to our day today. So we're in Genesis, very beginning, and we are in chapter 17. So I'm going to get right into it. We're going to roll this out. Super cool. It says, when Abraham was 99 years old, God appeared to him and told him. And I know that's one of those passages, again, that you just read over and you just go, oh, that's just a little background information, but it's really important. It gives us kind of a timeline. And the important thing about this is God doesn't appear for Abraham, or we don't have anything recorded for a long time again. It seems like there's these big jumps. Sometimes when you read the Bible and the narratives that are in throughout the scriptures of people's lives, sometimes you could think they're like back to back to back to back. And you go, whoa, my life is so boring compared to these people. Well, got to tell you, there's a lot of years in between when God appeared to Abraham. And very interesting, right? God appearing. This kind of walk with God, where God would appear to Abraham in these interesting moments, right? Very sporadically throughout his life, where there was this physical manifestation of God that was there. And there's a lot to talk about with that, and I don't want to kind of get hung up on all that, but I just find it very interesting that God appears. We saw that there was this interesting person, the angel, the Lord, that appeared to Abraham, 10 years prior or so. And here we see this another appearance of this kind of, it says God appeared. And it says, and then and the way he describes himself is very cool too. You might have heard that Hebrew expression El Shaddai, and this is where we get this, the I am the Almighty. And it says, obey me and live as you should. Now, I love this. And some people go, oh my God, this is the scary part, the obedience part, but I want you to see something very cool. If we flipped over into the New Testament and we looked at Jesus, the amazing thing is Jesus says the same thing all the time. Go and sin no more. Be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. And I want you to see something. Jesus always gives us the highest standard to live by. And that makes sense. If there is a God, I can't imagine God saying, you know what? Don't be perfect, but just be like slightly better. No, God's standard as God is perfect. That's what makes God God, is that God would be perfect. And so God can't compromise perfection. God, I certainly don't want to dwell with a God who compromises perfection. That wouldn't make heaven heaven, and it wouldn't make God God. It would make heaven like what we see on this earth, a lot of imperfection, and it would make God like humans, meaning just like us. There's that song, what if God was one of us? In the sense of just like us, a failure like one of us, a flaw like one of us, someone who has all kinds of good moments of glory, but then also not so good moments, right? Of not, that kind of idea. Man, a song that certainly burdens me, um, in many ways. Anyway, when I heard that song, when God, what if God was one of us? Oh my gosh, God, I hope not. You know, and so the standard is always obey, live as you should. And I love that. It's always saying, hey, you know what? Grow, get better, move in positive ways, better ways. Now, this is important because what if there's a society, what if we lived in a society that never exalted us to move towards betterment or to glory? Glory is that idea of something great, something done in excellence. What if we wanted everybody to be equal in everything? And we think, oh, whoa, isn't that what I want? Are you sure that's what you want? Do you want the one who plays amazing basketball? Do you want to break his leg or her leg so that other people could compete alongside that person? Is that what you want? Is that what you mean by equal? Do you mean by equal doing the same thing, the same way, at the same level of glory? No, that wouldn't be a good way to go, even though that's the confusion that maybe our world has right now in going on philosophically. And it's because they've kind of rejected this idea that there is an excellence, that we should strive for obedience. We should strive. Our culture right now, the biggest thing that our culture does not want or thinks that is evil above all things is to be told that you're wrong. That's right. If you're told you're wrong individually, if you go up to an individual and say, "Hey, I think you're wrong," that's like an offense. That's like, "What? You offended me." This is me. This is who I am. That's what we look to now, and as the most excellent way. Any kind of critique, but if you don't have a critique, if you can't critique a basketball player, if you can't critique a baseball player, if you can't critique anybody, if someone can't critique me and how I play guitar, then I'll never learn. I'll never get to the betterment. And if you use the word better in your life, or you use the word good, there must be a best. There must be something better. Yeah, we can't get around. There is a right. There is a wrong. There is the way we should go. And that's what is happening here. Obey me. Live as you should, as you ought to live. And that means there must be the best, the standard of right and wrong. I remember growing up, man, I didn't believe any of this, and I definitely was like, no way, there's none of that. But you know what? In my own words, I was obeying a standard, my own set of standards. And there was a standard that I felt like other people should hold to as well. That's why I criticized them. Man, those people are stupid. Man, they're dumb. Da 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 da. And even when I, said I didn't hold to a standard, I did all the time. And anyway, it says, I will prepare a contract between us, guaranteeing to make you into a mighty nation. What a cool promise for this guy. In fact, you shall be the father of not only one nation, but a multitude of nations. Abraham fell downward to the dust as God talked with him. Now, when God says, hey, obey me and live as you should, I'm going to do amazing things in your life. Notice the result. The result wasn't like Abraham's like, man, that's awesome. Abraham falls on his face, right? And talked with God downward. He realizes there's something above him. He doesn't, some people have so much pride. We have so much pride as human beings that all we can do is look down on everybody and critique and judge, right? And if you don't have a standard, if you don't have God, then all you have is humans. All you can do is look at other humans and try to find the answers in these flawed creatures, right? But I love Abraham's posture here, where he is down, meaning God is the one he needs to listen to. Everybody's going to listen to someone. It's just the question of who are you listening to? Is that a solid authority? Is that a sure standard? Is that a truth standard? Those are the big questions, right? What's more, God told him, I am changing your name. It's no longer Abram, exalted father, but Abraham, father of nations, many nations. So he's getting an identity change. That's a big thing today, right? Is to get an identity change. Everybody talks about identity, like, hey, this is my identity. This is my identity. Well, maybe, I had to get out of my own identity. I don't know about you, but man, growing up, like, whenever I got into my own identity, I found myself being narcissistic because it's all about me. I, iPhone, I this, iPad, I Bo, that I was always there. I became self-centered. Everything was about me trying to figure out, my problems by looking more at me. And if I had problems, it's because I was looking at me, but my solutions were always to look more at me. And that it was a circular reasoning. It made no sense, but that's what I did. Right? It made me arrogant. So whenever things were going well, I became self-righteous. I became prideful and yucky. I started thinking of myself as doing pretty good. And all, just, get all into this, right? Well, I need an identity change, not from what I think I should be, because maybe I don't know what I am. Maybe, just maybe, my brain is not able to understand everything. And maybe I have some things wrong about myself. Maybe my identity needs to be from someone outside of me, but not just anybody. Because if someone you could make someone kind of give you your identity. You go on YouTube and you watch this YouTuber and he tells you what you think you are, and and he'll confirm what you think you are, and that's, you walk away and you go, yeah, that's my identity. That's right. That's what I got it from there. Yeah, absolutely. But you don't realize the source you got it from is just as flawed as you. We need a greater source, one that it's impossible for them to lie. It's impossible for them to do wrong. We need a source that is absolutely mathematically factual, true, no flaw in it at all. And this is what God does to Abraham. He gives him a name. Hey, man, your identity is now by me. I'm giving you your identity, father of many nations. I love that. It says, I will give you millions of descendants who will form many nations. Wow. Out of Ishmael, out of Isaac is going to come many nations. Is that true? Yeah. Many nations have been formed around Abraham's descendants. Right? Just look throughout the Middle East. Look at their current names, but you look at the different people, Persians and Babylonians and Syrians, and you go down the list. Arabs, Hebrews, and it just goes on and on. And many nations. And I will continue this agreement between us generation after generation forever, for it shall be between me and your children as well. So this is a agreement, a covenant that's being made between God and Abraham and his descendants and his children as well. This one of God going to be there for this nation. And it says, are making nations out of Abraham. And it says, and it is a contract that I shall be with you. I shall be your God and the God of your posterity, and I will give all this land of Canaan to you and them forever, and I will be your God. So it is about God being there with them, and it says God giving them a land. This is what people debate all the time in our current world, right? Israel, the land of Israel. And so here it's a very clear statement that God said, hey, I'm going to give you the land of Canaan to you and to them forever. Wow, I will be your God. Pretty radical, right? Pretty strong claim in the Bible that all the way back in the days of Genesis, in the days of Abraham now, that God has this promise of the land being theirs, his descendants. So it says, verse 9, your part of the contract, God told him, is to obey its terms. You personally and all your posterity have this continual responsibility. So this is something that's on them to do. They need to uphold their end. That every male among you now shall be circumcised. The foreskin of his penis shall be cut off. This shall be the proof that you and they accept this covenant. Every male shall be circumcised on the 8th day after birth. This applies to every foreign-born slave as well as to everyone born in your household. The idea of slave is idea of a hired hand, a hired worker. This is a permanent part of this contract and it applies to all your posterity. All must be circumcised. Your bodies will thus be marked as participants in my everlasting covenant with you. Anyone who refuses the terms shall be cut off from his people, for he has violated my contract. Wow. Pretty amazing, right? Pretty awesome. He says, you know what, this contract, I'm going to give you guys like a physical thing to look at so you remember this contract. I tell you what, God really made it very, known that the covenant is alive and kicking when you're circumcising, your kid on the 8th day after birth. And, you very much see this covenant in kind of real form, so to speak, right? The sensitivity of listening and obeying the covenant. I don't think there's any other physical way that it could have been given to Abraham and his descendants of how important it was for them to listen to God and obey God by giving him such a sensitive thing to do by cutting this foreskin, right? Definitely something that would have some pain in it. Now, there is some spiritual implications to circumcision, and we'll see that as the Bible develops, which is kind of cool. So it's not just referring to this physical circumcision, but we're going to see that it's going to talk about that the physical circumcision was to point to the relationship with God, and that there was to be like a circumcision, a cutting off of the old life, and now a move into this new identity with God. That now you are walking with the true and living God in a new way. You have a new identity, a freshness to it, something different. Everybody wants to be different, man. We live in a subculture dominated world. That's why we like to get tattoos or nose rings or earrings or those kind of things, or why we talk about our identity all the time, what we prefer in relationships, everything like that. It's all very subculture like. We get into our niches, I should say. I don't know if niches is a word, is it? But a niche, like when I was growing up, it was, those heavy metal music on Sunset Boulevard, and you wear certain clothes and you wear your hair a certain way and that kind of thing. And then, you surf culture, you have maybe a surf subculture as well. You have punk music, that subculture. You have all these subcultures, right? And they make you feel good. You belong to a group. You associate with that group. You conform to that group, right? You're conforming your ways, your identities to that culture, right? Those kind of things. We live in that kind of world in every way. This is the way we are all conforming to some standard, some kind of norm. It doesn't matter what it is. You get a bunch of tattoos, well, that's great, but the person, over there has a bunch of tattoos too, and you guys probably are going to hang out now because you guys dig your tattoos together, or you like the same music together, or you like the piercings world, or you like this, or you like this identity or that identity, and that kind of thing, where here God says, I'm giving you a new identity, and I'm going to show it in your body. I want you guys to remember this. And so I'm giving you this sensitive thing to always remember that your body, everything is mine. And that your life is mine, that your identity is wrapped up in me. It's not in what you want to do. That even when you look at the most sensitive part of your body, you see that you are in identity with me, that there is a covenant that we have made. Very interesting. I can go on and on about that, and different scriptures, but hey, let's move on. It says, then God added, regarding Sarai, your wife, her name is no longer Sarai, but Sarah, princess. That's what it means now. And I will bless her and give you a son from her. Remember, she was beautiful, this one. Remember this? Remember Sarah? She was a pretty girl. The king of the Pharaoh of Egypt dug her pretty much. It says, yes, I will bless her richly and make her the mother of nations. Many kings shall be among your posterity. Remember, they're old. Remember this. This is given to them when they are ancient, man. They are as good as dead with any kind of progeny, right? Can you imagine people that are 100 years old having kids? Then Abraham threw himself down in worship before the Lord, but inside he was laughing in disbelief. Me? Be a father? He said in amusement. Me, 100 years old, and Sarah to have a baby at 90? Isn't that cool? Just busting up. They're like, oh my gosh, this sounds so crazy. And you know what? When your identity becomes in something so amazing like God, you got to expect amazing things. Because by definition, God is the Almighty, the El Shaddai, right? He's an almighty God. He can do amazing things. And so guess what? When God says, hey, I'm El Shaddai, it means I'm the one who can do whatever. I can do all things. And here we go. We're going to do all things. And I love that this morning, just thinking like, hey, God can do all things. And he knows how to deal with me in my life. He knows how to work on things. He knows what I need when I need it. And I can trust him. And, that kind of idea I just find super cool. So it says, and Abraham said to God, yes, do bless Ishmael. So Abraham's laughing and thinking like, am I going to have another kid? No way. It must be the first kid I had with the maid, Hagar. Abraham had intimacy with Hagar, had Ishmael. Abraham's thinking maybe it's with Ishmael that he's talking about. And no, God replies, that isn't what I said. Sarai shall bear you a son, and you are to name him Isaac. Laughter. Everything to remember this moment. And I will sign my covenant with him forever and with his descendants. As for Ishmael, all right, I will bless him also. Just as you have asked me to, I will cause him to multiply and become a great nation. 12 princes shall be among his posterity, but my contract is with Isaac, who is to be born to you and Sarah your next year about this time. So he says, you're going to have a baby. Sarah, you're going to have your firstborn baby at this age. It's going to be a miracle. And don't you love it when God shows his hand in your life through various miracles? And, sometimes I look back on my life, even when I hated God, and I go, man, dude, it seems like there was so many moments where there was something special that happened. And just really interesting things that make me very appreciative of God not just, turning from me as I have turned from him, growing up. It says that ended the conversation and God left. Then that very day, Abraham took Ishmael, his son, and every other male born in his household and bought from outside and cut off their foreskins just as God had told him to. Everybody in now Abraham's posse is to have this circumcision, this sign of this covenant, that there would be a nation that will be born through this miraculous birth of Sarah. And so it says Abraham was 99 years old at the time and Ishmael was 13. Both were circumcised the same day along with other men and boys, of the household, whether born or bought as slaves. So as hired hands, right from the day. Don't when you hear the word slavery in these sections, you have to detach yourself from European slavery. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a much different form of kind of what's called slavery, but really a hired hand kind of thing. Middle Eastern kind of slavery was that way. Even if you fell on hard times, you could go into a family and work for them, and they can take care of you. And you would be considered a slave to that family. You could actually stay in that family if you like to, and you would be called a bond slave, a bond servant. And it's you volitionally just want to be there. Everything was volitionally done. It wasn't like you were you were forced to do that. You had the opportunity to do it. So very different culture for sure. Very cool. God speaks to us in special ways as well, and he touches us in special ways, and he wants our identity to be wrapped up in him. I get that from this chapter, and that he wants to give me a new name as well. And just a hint that at the end of the Bible, we're going to see something like that taking place. It's kind of interesting with us all. So this whole idea of identity comes up again and again throughout the scriptures. So he gives Abraham this covenant of circumcision, something that would physically be present within them, that God would be on their bodies, so to speak. The intimacy of the covenant would be right there written on them. But it's not the physical that's the important, right? It's something spiritual. There's this beautiful relationship between God and them. Now they're going to forget that as they go down the road, and they're going to just look at that physical, and they're going to start boasting in that physical, and they're going to forget the humble beginnings of how this covenant came to be, that it was really a miraculous beginning, and one that they treaded on really lightly, Abraham did and Sarah, and they were blown away by it. And we're going to see over the time how people start doubting and people's faith wanes and things like that. So anyway, hey, another good Devo this morning. Another good chapter of the Bible, very interesting chapter again, idea of circumcision. Again, this is a theme that comes up throughout the Bible. You guys have a great day. Thanks for checking it out. And Lord willing, we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.